And we are now recording.
All right.
All right. So we're going to wait a few more minutes. We got one more minute till we hit 10 o'clock. We got people streaming in here, so that's good. Yeah, so anyways, thanks for everybody for attending. We're going to get started straight away here. We got a ton of material to cover. If you have any questions or comments or anything, just type them into the chat, and then we are going to have an open question period at the end if you do have any questions for Darcy, myself, or Matthew. So I'm excited about this. Darcy is a special guest from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Darcy's been gracious enough to help out with our little webinars that we've been putting on and giving us some information that I don't have and that Matt doesn't have, and some of the aspects of the CFIB in regards to some of the COVID issues and then lobbying the government for small business.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing people don't know is the lobby portion of CFIB.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that if a lot of small businesses feel like they don't have a voice, and
Absolutely.
And Darcy's company or Darcy's representation of the CFIB, they're our voice in Ottawa, they're our voice in Victoria, they're our voice in City Hall, they're our voice everywhere we go. So we've got a lot of things to cover, so we're going to get going on it. We've got people signing in slowly but surely. I'm going to move our things around so that we can have the majority of things showing up. But basically, if you have any specific situations that are to yourself specifically, please ask the questions to us directly after we're done. We're not going to answer specifics on this, but we do have the intention of trying to help everybody out if we can. Just ask us afterwards, set up a meeting with Matt, myself, or Darcy. And all of our information, we're going to record this, put it on YouTube. All of our information and contact info will be on the YouTube link. So people already know who I am because I'm always yapping about whatever's going on. Why don't I introduce Darcy? Darcy, introduce yourself. Why don't you please?
Sure. My name is Darcy Leflar. I'm the district manager with CFIB in the back end of the valley from about half of Abbotsford all the way out to Hope and up on number 7 up to Harrison and DeRoche and the likes. I've been with CFIB now for about 8 months, and I come from a corporate background, and one of the things that I'm noticing that's been really striking for me is how much work entrepreneurs have to do and the struggles that they have in dealing with things that are not directed at growing their business. And quite honestly, it's been shocking, and I don't think that people know this, because I can tell you, I thought I was well informed, and I certainly didn't know it. A great deal of respect for those individuals that choose to be entrepreneurs, own their own businesses because of the jobs you create and the people that you hire and just what you do for the communities that we live in. I'm also an active volunteer in Chilliwack, and I can tell you that a lot of the things that we do in order to fundraise for literacy would not happen without the graciousness of a lot of the entrepreneurs. So I really appreciate what you folks do every day for the communities that you're operating in. What you're going to learn today from me is some of the things that CFIB does. I'll take you through some slides. And what's in it for you is if you have some information that you need, I can do my best to get it for you. I can tell you about who we are. And to Lyle's points about having your voice heard, I'm going to share some information with you that I think might surprise you on how significant the impact of independent and small business can be on government programs.
Wonderful. Matt?
Hi, I'm Matthew Fearn from VMA Accounting and Consulting. I've been doing this an awfully long time. I know I don't look it, but 26 years this year of being a CPA in public practice. I still do not have any gray, and I still have all my hair, so we're good. A little less right now because of CRA. I mean, I guess the audit committee is now back in full force. I've gone through 2 audits already this week. Interesting changes in the audits, and if you've got a chance, it's not for this time, but we'll probably talk about that in the future. But I'm your small business tax specialist, and that's what we do. We tackle. I even take on audits for other accountants, so that's kind of my specialty is just the taxation side of CRA. And with all these changes, it's making life very difficult. All of you know, all the changes coming down. We were talking beforehand how they love to make the announcements, but they sure don't like to follow up afterwards.
Yeah, we'll cover a lot of that stuff here shortly. I'll be your host. I'm Lyle McDougall. I'm a certified financial planner. I specialize in helping small business with their financial planning, their financial assets, tax and estate planning. I work with Matt. I work with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. I'm also a proud member of the CFIB, as I am a small business owner myself. And we, you know, I've really had my eyes open to the value of having somebody in our corner to help out. And that's the huge thing is a lot of small business or a lot of entrepreneurs, we're all here all by ourselves, kind of just doing what we need to do. And yeah, I'm very excited to have the CFIB on to help out with this. There's a lot of new information. There's a lot of information that we'd hoped that we would have some answers to, such as the new loan program. We'll talk about the CEBA. We'll talk about the COVID-19 fallout. We'll talk about all of those different things moving forward. So we'll just launch right into it. Issues arising from COVID-19 for small business. Obviously, the biggest white elephant that we can talk about is the shutdowns that we had in March, April, and May, and into the summertime, the early summer. We've since reopened the economy to a certain extent. But it's not even close to roaring back at full capacity. I'd say we're probably maybe at 60% of what we were doing before, if we're lucky, as far as business and everything else is concerned. If you just look at the traffic that's out there, a lot of people aren't on the roads. A lot of people aren't commuting to work anymore. There's still a lot of people that are laid off for some reason, and they're still sitting back and not working, or there's just not a lot of continuation for some businesses. We're starting to see some of the shutdowns now for some small business. Matt, have you seen that? Darcy, have you seen that?
Loads.
Yeah.
Loads.
There's a lot more listings going up for leasing. There's a lot more auctions going up for supplies, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Staffing, Matt, we can talk about staffing and people, but the biggest complaint that I've had from my clients that are small business owners is staffing retention and also recruitment. Finding the right people to fill the spots, because you've either lost people from COVID, lost people from the layoffs or from the shutdowns, and they're just not coming back, or they found something different. And that's a huge thing. What are some things that you're hearing, what you guys are hearing out there as far as staffing is concerned?
But one of the things that I heard on a consistent basis was the CERB benefit to a lot of those folks, where, people that worked in hospitality or food service were losing people because they could make small adjustments in their life and then spend the time at home. I've had a number of conversations with members that are struggling, to your point, Lyle, to get staffing back. And quite honestly, it's something that CFIB actively worked on. We wanted the CERB benefit to be reduced and transitioned where people needed to work. If they were called back to work and they weren't willing to come back, that they lost their benefits. So you've seen that change. Actually, it was last month with EI. But again, the EI benefits are incredibly generous. People aren't having to work as long in order to get that benefit. So we're continuing to push back. Our president, Dan Kelly, had made the comment, if the EI benefits were in place when he was washing dishes at a pizza parlor in Winnipeg when he was a kid, he would qualify for EI. And, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, we're continuing to push back in order to get people back to work, because it seems ironic that we're in a situation where, the economy needs people, but yet there's no people, and there's all of these individuals that are collecting benefits. So, how do we work to get people back to work? Recognizing that there are some challenges, and it's not everyone, but a lot of my members are struggling to hire people and qualified people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of like increased staffing is also coming down from COVID because of the extra, the contact tracing, the extra protocols. Like you need actually more staffing to have your business running efficiently with COVID, all the COVID precautions.
Right.
It's actually created almost an economy in itself for PPEs and cleaning supplies and having janitorial services, that type of thing. Like those are all things that are expenses that business owners have to cover.
Right.
Especially if they were maybe say cleaning their small business on their own on the weekends. Like and now you have to hire a professional cleaning company to come in and clean your business once a week for, because of COVID and keeping things as clean as possible. That in itself is an extra cost and extra staffing for a lot of different situations.
I can tell you, I was in a member's coffee shop yesterday, and the amount of sanitation that they were doing ongoing, I can only imagine what the cost of those supplies was going to cost her at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Well,
I know that a lot of expense. Yeah, there's been a lot of a huge increase in cleaning supplies, and you couldn't even get them at the beginning. Like when things started reopening May, June, there's a cleaning supply place down the street from my office here, and they were like, it was empty. There was nothing left. Everybody was buying everything up. So the cleaning protocols, does either of you guys have any ideas as far as how long these extra protocols are going to last? Like, is it going to be once we get the vaccine, or is this the new reality? Like, are we going to keep cleaning everything ad nauseum, and Lysol wipes are going to be everywhere and sanitizing is going to be everywhere? Or is that going to kind of, once we have the vaccine, are we going to kind of scooch away from it? I know we're not medical doctors, but what are your thoughts on that, guys?
So from my perspective, I mean, when I look at what we've had happen in the 20th century, we had SARS, we had the swine flu, now we have COVID. I think that some variation on this is going to be the new normal, even when we get a vaccine, because we're really pacing about every 10 years that we're having some sort of infectious disease come along that is really putting people on its heels. This one is global, but SARS, and I think about what happened in Toronto and in other jurisdictions. I mean, did it change behavior? I don't know, but I think that this one, because there's so much pain associated with it, I think it's going to be best practice going forward. And we've been hearing for a long time, wash your hands, during flu season and the likes. But the expectation, I think, when you look at government organizations like WorkSafe, they can impose this. You're not going to have a choice if they insist upon doing this, because it's going to be part of the protocol. And do you really want to be fined because somebody shows up one day and says, hey, show me your protocols, and you don't have something?
Yeah.
I mean, it's those kind of things that I think that are ultimately going to get in the way and dictate what the new normal looks like.
And I don't necessarily disagree that we need some extra cleaning. Like, some places were really kind of gross and dirty, and we should maybe wash our hands more as a society and keep ourselves a little bit cleaner. But the one thing that I'm really kind of, concerned with is that it's just going to make life more expensive and more difficult for everybody. And that's kind of the big thing.
You know what, it will change forever, and it's going to affect the Vancouver green plan is downtown rental. I've talked to other colleagues of mine who work downtown. They're going from like a 10,000 square foot down to a 2,000 square foot because they want everybody working from home.
Yeah.
People who are sick are now going to be asked to stay home. I mean, I had clients just before COVID. I actually lost a client. They were forcing me to come in. I was sick as a dog. I think I had it. I remember telling you I was so sick. I had pneumonia. They were, no, you got to get this done. You got to come in. And now they're like, oh, why did you come in so sick? Would you like me to read back the emails that you were sending me in the threats? So that's what everybody says to me. The biggest change out of this will be how people do business. Zoom, which we're doing today, but instead of having a seminar in real life, we're not going to have them. We're going to have this. People working from home, the people that are able to do that and are self-motivated will continue to work from home and be happy to do so. Especially, as you guys know, with the Vancouver rollout. Do you want to go downtown Vancouver? It's going to cost you an extra $20 a day now. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to people that are seriously talking for the first time ever, moving their whole practices out of the downtown core. Now, you would never have heard that 5 years ago.
That's a good segue, Matt, we'll talk about all of those changes that I think, like the macro kind of high level things that we're going to see as a society, I think is going to change drastically. I'm so glad to have you guys both on here for these federal emergency benefits. So the CERB has now transitioned to the CRB. Darcy, you had kind of mentioned that with EI and stuff like that. With the CRB, you have to go to work for how many hours to qualify for the new benefit?
I don't have the details in front of me, Lyle, but I want to say it's half of what it previously was.
It's not very much. It's like working for a month, and then you qualify for EI for half a year.
Yeah, for $400 a week.
Yeah,
is what I understand. So, that transition out, again, we're continuing to push back on this because, end game on this is more payroll tax for independent business. So
Yeah.
what does it look like? So I get that we need to transition people off of CERB, and the organization has been spending a great deal of time pushing on this because, again, those decisions that are being made, do not put them into law because we don't know what the unintended consequences of these things are. You know, especially when we're looking to get the economy back up and running.
Yeah, and
I
that's
do know from my clients, if they've sent letters to say, hey, we need you to come back to work. And the reason why I'm telling people to do that is if they don't come back to work and they're like, well, I'm happy to collect my money, whistleblow. There you go. You didn't want to come back to work. You know, you're going to get cut off. And this is going to happen, and people are going to have to repay because it's like the staffing is an issue.
Well, and there's a meme going around right now that remember I Know What You Did Last Summer, that movie from the 90s. There's a thing. It's the same movie thing, but it's like, I know you collected CERB last year, and it's coming from CRA. If you collected CERB last year or in the last little while, or if you're on the CRB, you're opening yourself up for all kinds of fun with Canada Revenue Agency in 2021 and 2022. I'm sorry to tell you this. You can guarantee, like, there's not a lot of guarantees in life, but you know that if you're getting free money from the government, they're coming to get you later on for it. And it's all taxable too. So, I mean, if you've been spending $2,000 a month and you've made 40 grand last year, you can say
you're getting a tax bill.
$700 of that $2,000 every month is going to be taxed.
Yeah.
So
I want to get back to what Matt was saying regarding sending the letter. We've been counseling our members to follow exactly that protocol, because the concern is that you have somebody that can't find work and all of a sudden they said, well, you know, there wasn't a job for me to come back. Well, here's the proof that we called you back and
you
can come back and you didn't answer. Because the biggest concern that we have is constructive dismissal. So all of a sudden you have somebody that's not coming back, creating grief, where you hire somebody else. Now you got to give them a couple of $1,000s to walk away because you do not have a paper trail. That paper trail is incredibly important when you're dealing with labor law and the likes, and making sure you're on side. And that paper trail can be something as simple as emails and texts that you print off, but documentation that you reached out to this individual, whether you get a response or not, because there is an appropriate amount of time that these folks have to respond, but it's not months.
And you mentioned constructive dismissal there. Is that should be a real concern for employers moving forward here, because employees are going to come back and they're going to have all kinds of new restrictions on the type of work they can do, the hours they can work. And if it doesn't fit what works with the company, you need to document that and make sure that the employee is doing what they were doing before the COVID hit. Isn't that kind of like a fair statement? Like, they should be doing the comparable job?
Yeah. And you think in employment law, whenever I've talked to lawyers, documentation, just like CRA. Yeah. You're sending letters. Nobody's sick. They don't have any health conditions. I had a lady who had a health condition. You know this, Lyle. That's fine. She retired. We paid her for a little bit just because of the situation. So I understand all that. We're not talking about those situations. Unfortunately, we're talking about the 23-year-old who's perfectly healthy and doesn't want to come back to work because they don't feel safe, even though they post on Facebook that they were out at Cactus Club all night and there's pictures of them hugging everybody. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. It's just the truth, right? Yeah. Those are the people. You write letters, you contact them, you make sure that it's all documented, because I mean, I've a couple of my employees, my companies that I do, were able to actually get rid of some troubled employees that they wouldn't get rid of, but these people just refused to come back to work. And when the labor law saw they didn't have a leg to stand on. Yeah. They just didn't have a leg to stand on why they weren't coming back. So they were able to get rid of them. Not saying you want to use this to get rid of people, but on the same token, you can't be walked all over. I feel sometimes like small business owners were just walked on all the time.
Well, and they kind of get it from both ends. They get it from the top down and from the bottom up, right? So
one of the comments I hear a lot is, I've got a great team. You know, I don't need to have these things in place. Well, quite honestly, people go into a marriage loving each other, and then they split the assets. Yeah. You know, so quite honestly, it's cheap insurance for a piece of paper. And this is one of the things that we can offer you at CFIB is employment contracts to make it easy for you. Yeah. All of this stuff is already created. And quite honestly, having that peace of mind just means that you're not going to end up with a surprise one day because you're getting a note that, hey, you need to pay this individual XYZ dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
And also all the other stuff you have on your website too, like the marijuana, having policies on marijuana use and that kind of thing. That's also really helpful, Darcy.
Yeah.
Okay, we can chat about the CEBA here. So the government, Prime Minister Trudeau last month announced that they were increasing the loan from 40,000 to 60,000, and that instead of $10,000 being forgiven, it'd be $20,000 being forgiven. We have yet to hear much in the way of details on that. Have you guys? And we were kind of chatting about this before.
I'm on the website right now, Lyle. So according to the banks, like I've been talking to the bankers, right on the emergency website right now, it says coming soon. CEBA support is being expanded from 40K to 60K. Expansion will be available to all eligible previous and new CEBA applications. Stay tuned to the CEBA website, which I'm on. And I'll just go on. The biggest change, though, is if you did not have a company account, so you were running your proprietorship through your personal account, they're going to allow you to open a business account and then apply for the CEBA. There also is a new website where you don't have to use it. I'm telling people to use it because it's really good for you to know. It's not like you say, hey, I had a proprietorship for $5,000. That's all the expenses I've had for years. You're not going to qualify. You have to have $40,000 worth of expenses here. And really, what they're trying to do is and this is like, I know people that fall into this. You're trying to start a business. You started a business, say, December of last year or January of this year. I even know a couple of people started a business January of this year.
Yeah.
They don't qualify for this loan because it's like, well, I started my business. Now you're going to have a chance to qualify, which they should have had a chance to qualify. They did everything right. They went and got their GST number. Now, if you were skirting tax laws and you don't have a GST number, you don't have a business number, unfortunately, you're out of luck here. So basically, I think if you weren't doing the things properly, you're still out of luck. If you did things properly as far as getting a BIN number, right, then you're going to be okay. But you have to spend 40K.
So the big one that I think most of our entrepreneurial clients or sole proprietor clients or sole proprietor people that are going to be listening to this, you need to have a business account. To run your business through your personal account is not a good idea.
Nope.
On many different levels. Liabilities one, tax wise is another one. You got commingling. You've got all these things. If you're in business for yourself, open up a business account all day long. Because again, not just to get the $40,000 or $60,000 loan or whatever it is. You need to have that differentiation of your bank accounts between your business and yourself, because all you're doing is opening up yourself up for audits, and it's not going to be fun. And then you have CRA have access to your main personal bank account. If they're going to do a business audit on you, now they're going to audit your personal account. Well, where do they stop?
So one of the things that I'd like to add to that too is those individuals that are going to open a business account, we are recommending to our members that they open it at the same financial institution.
Yeah.
This is not a time to jump to a new financial institution, because the chances are it'll disqualify you.
That's a wonderful point. Yeah, now is not the time to make any big drastic changes to your financial situation. It's time to just put your head down and get through this. Wage subsidy, Matt, you want to go off on this one for a little while?
Yeah, the wage subsidy is continuing, but it's like a graduated program. It just gets less and less and less and less and less every month, right? So we calculate it out, but people are like, hey, I'm not getting as much as I used to. The other thing we're noticing is we're getting far more phone calls these days, and we've even had a few reviews. So I tell everybody, if you've done the wage subsidy, please have all your backup ready to go. I think we get phone calls, we send them all the information within 30 minutes. That tells CRA, these guys have all their ducks in a row. I don't have to audit them. That's what we're hoping. Because guess what, guys? This was worth a lot of money, a lot more than your income tax, a lot more than getting your vehicle on your T4 added. Trust me, this is big dollars. It's going to get audited. So have your ducks in a row. How you, because what I was talking to numbers, well, I change every week, every month how I qualify. There's rules. And then
what about companies that haven't applied yet, that have been just kind of muddling through?
Yeah,
they would probably qualify back to June.
They got to go talk to a tax professional. Okay. We had a client in this past week, right? We don't qualify, Matt. We didn't qualify. So VJ the Wizard, as I call him, he's my business partner, went through all the scenarios, because there's like 5 or 6 different ways to qualify. Anyways, they qualified for 4 months, got them $40K. Yeah. They were told by their bookkeeper and them, oh, you don't qualify. And we keep on hearing this, and then we look at it, we're like,
Yep.
there's more than one way to qualify, guys.
To Darcy's, like Darcy's CFIB has help with the calculations on their website. As a member, you get to log in and have the, but it's like, honestly, I'm a financial planner. I don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. It is not a very easy calculation to do. It was written probably by actuaries.
And there was, and like I said, there's an error on the spreadsheet the CRA gave out.
Yep.
So just so you know, the CRA actually reached out to us to help develop the communication for this. And this is the communication you got. So they were not left on their own.
So they did this all. Oh, good for.
So
Thanks
they
for
had help from us.
Yeah.
So the information's out there. It's just, the problem is it's tedious. You have to run every scenario.
Yeah. And there's, like I said, I tell people there's 3 different ways to qualify for this thing. Depends on how you calculate your revenue and your income and your net income based on expenses, and if your revenue's decreased, and there's all kinds of different ways. And
whatever I'm going to tell you, go just talk to a tax professional.
This is for not for profits as well, not just businesses. Like, this is for not for profits. This is for charities. This is for the wage subsidy, like Air Canada, WestJet. They're probably living off of this right now. This is billions and billions of dollars of tax money that's keeping a lot of these companies afloat. And
this is a lot of tax dollars.
If people think that we're going to have another shutdown,
you can't afford it.
You can't afford it.
What do you want to be? $3 trillion, $4 trillion? How much in debt do you want to be?
And we can even go down that rabbit hole, right? So we've got the rental subsidy. Kekra's done. Am I wrong?
Yep.
Yeah. It's being transitioned. So one of the things that we were finding as an organization is only about 20% of landlords were participating. There's a couple of things here that are important to understand, is that landlords are businesses themselves. So consequently, I mean, they're impacted when they're expected to give away money. But the other piece is the amount of paperwork that was required in order for them to be able to help their tenants was significant. The questions that they had to ask their tenants, a lot of tenants were uncomfortable in giving them financial information around how their business was doing.
Yeah.
So only getting about a 20% participation rate, and this is one of the single biggest things that Laura Jones, our VP out of Vancouver, has been fighting for, is to make sure that this goes to the tenants. So we were really happy when that change was announced. So the biggest challenge that we have now, though, is we're pushing for it to be retroactive, because it's really starting from October forward until the end of the year, from what we understand currently.
So
but there was a lot of businesses that were shut down. They still had bills and they had no revenue. So we're looking to get it to be retroactive to when the shutdown starts.
Okay.
So we are actively lobbying on that.
And do they have any like protocols on the new? It's the new CERS, so the CERS. Do they have any qualifications, and they're going to backdate it to June? Is that or to May?
No, it's currently just October going forward. We are looking for it to be retroactive, but it is on a sliding scale, similar to what the wage subsidy is. And it is being administered by the CRA, which is a change.
And then also, you would want a tax professional to do this for you as well then, right?
Yeah. The other problem we found with the rental stuff, the CIRSA, is it was a loan. That's the way it was administered. That's the way the paperwork, you signed paperwork for the landlord as a loan.
Yeah.
And then they made it sound like there was a chance that the tenant could basically not qualify, and then the loan's not forgiven. It's just a loan on your books. And that freaked out a lot of my clients. And they said, Matt, we're only doing this for businesses really impacted because we're too scared.
Yeah.
Like, the pub's open, they're making money. We're not claiming for September, even though they're like, oh, our revenues are down. Well, prove it, because this is a loan that they're forgiving. It's not like they're giving you money. It's a loan.
Yeah.
And that's the wording that's used. And I kept on saying, well, I think they're doing it as a loan so that they can pass this off for the next 4 or 5 years as not just a loss today, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, a lot of landlords did not like it. They thought it was too much risk with the wording being loan instead of, subsidy.
And nobody wants to see a loan on their balance sheet either, right? Like, you go back to your financial statements, like, you don't want to see a liability of whatever it is on there from COVID. Like, you want to have clean sheets when you move to the next stage, right? Matt and I, we kind of talked about the sickness benefit and the caregiving benefit. These are for people that have COVID. or COVID, like, or a loved one that has COVID and you have to take care of them. There's not, and it's only for one parent on the caregiving benefit. So the other parent has to go to work. If it's a single family, well, then it's the one parent, or the single parent family. If it's the one parent that's there. And then the sickness benefit, that was what was, that got all of this through with the NDP that they wanted. Darcy, do you have any insight onto the sickness benefit?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Well, when I get some, I'll make sure that I get it off to you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with a lot of these
It's a short-term benefit. It's a short-term benefit. This is all this is. It's just to get you through. Hey, son. I mean, with the new rules, I think if one of your kids is tested, you got to keep everybody home for school. So this is really for parents and people who have the sickness. I mean, that's what this is for.
And I am all for, like, if you're sick, stay home.
Absolutely.
Don't and the low income people that need this, like, you know, this is part of the problem is if you're making minimum wage or you're low income and you don't have sick leave benefits at work, and you don't have the ability to afford to go off for a day or two to get better, this is sorely needed for that kind of middle gap of people that don't have sick benefits from their company. So I am for this, especially in the time when we're trying to maintain trying to do this. All right, let's talk tax here, boys. This is my favorite part. Property tax deferrals are done. Property tax increases likely will be coming in the next couple of years, everybody. So if you own property in BC, you're likely to see some increases in your property taxes over the next little while. They just did a big increase last year. Your property taxes basically stayed the same because they devalued your house, but the taxes went up. So your actual tax went down or stayed the same. Darcy, you had mentioned some things that CFIB had done with the property tax situation.
So what we've been spending a lot of time lobbying on, a lot of feedback out of Vancouver that people that were in older buildings, single story, were getting massive tax bills and it was forcing them out of business. So we have an example that we use for illustrative purposes. If you have two properties that are worth $3 million, you have a single story property that is valued at $3 million, you're paying the full commercial rate on that. So for argument's sake, let's say it's $15,000. Whereas you have a three-story property beside you that's mixed use, the bottom commercial portion is paying its appropriate rate, but the residential portion is paying a lower rate. So consequently, the multi-story, multi-use building is paying less in property taxes than the single-use one. So effectively, the older development property is paying tax on air. We are actively pushing back against that, and we expect it's going to be something that other jurisdictions are looking at in order to shore up their revenues in order to pay for the cities to run. But the reality is we continue to push back against that because we're finding that some of our members are having to close because of the property tax bills that they're getting, which is just totally unrealistic when they haven't crystallized those profits by selling their property for development.
Well, they're trying to capture they're trying to capture the potential money that they have that's coming their way. Income tax, they haven't announced income tax increases as of yet. We don't even have a budget as a federal government right now, so they can't really increase income taxes if they don't have a budget. But I mean, with a $1 trillion deficit, they're going to have to recoup some of that at some point in time. Matt, what have you heard? Anything on income tax increases or?
No, we've heard nothing from the finance minister, but she is a George Soros disciple, so we will be paying higher income tax.
Yeah,
all of what it is.
And this one, the CPP increase. This one here is what really got me going on the tax talks, because this one was snuck in. Nobody knew about it. The government before COVID was touting that they had never raised income taxes. They cut income taxes for the middle class. They may have cut income taxes for the middle class, but in amongst all of that, they increased the CPP contributions for people. That is going ahead as of January the 1st. They have not changed it. It's been announced from the government that the pensionable year's maximum pensionable earnings is going up to $60,100. And the contribution rate for employee and employer are still going to go up as scheduled. So it's going to be from 5.45% up from 5.25% in 2020. So your contribution rate will be 10.9% in 2020 if you're self-employed. So that actually equals out to about an extra $600 out of your pocket as self-employed, and $300 out of your pocket if you're an employee for next year of increased deductions from your paycheck. We're not done yet either. We got another 2 more years, and it's going to be going up to 11.9% overall contribution rate in the next couple of years. This goes against exactly what the Bank of Canada is saying, that we need to give the recovery for our economy is going to be a consumer recovery. It's not going to be infrastructure. It's not going to be building bridges and roads. It's going to be people going out shopping and buying cars and buying stuff and going on vacations and doing things like that in Canada. That's going to help our economic recovery, not infrastructure and increased taxes and increased regulations. So, Darcy, you guys have been lobbying the government to go against this? I know that this has already gone through royal assent and it's already in legislation, so we can't change this. But I think it's poor timing to have January 1st come out, and then with everything else that we're dealing with right now, it's like, oh, by the way, business owners, you have to pay an extra $600 in Canada Pension Plan.
It's just contrary to, what we're talking about and what the government is talking about, getting our economy back.
Yeah.
Again, it's downloading costs on business owners that represent half the economy. Does this make a lot of sense?
Yeah.
To your point about consumption, people are going to make decisions.
Yeah.
$300 for an individual and $600 for a business is the difference, between somebody spending that money and going, we just don't have the money to put the kid in hockey, or, we're not going to buy that piece of machinery.
Or it's not going to go to charity either. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not, the charitable donations are way down. These are all things that are going to impact a lot of different things. Matt, what are your thoughts on Canada? I know you and I have talked about this ad nauseum about things. So,
well, I'll give you an example that everybody can understand, right? The Aquilinis. Let's just talk about the Canucks, because everybody can understand this. What's been happening for years and years and years? So just pass it on to the big business owners. They've got the money, no problem. Don't worry about it. Mr. Aquilini comes down and says, hey, do not increase our payroll. We do not have the money. That's what they literally came down and said. Big business is hurting. Do not kid yourself. There's some companies that are not hurting, like Walmart, Costco. They're not hurting. They've done really well. A lot of big businesses hurting though, and they, with the MSP tax, I call it the medical service plan tax. What I still call it. Now that's over. We had a bunch of clients. I had business owners saying, yeah, I got the payroll, but I can't afford this, Matt, so I'm going to have to start cutting payroll.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the wage subsidy, now that the wage subsidy is going down, they're like, well, you know what? Thanks. You got me through the tough time, but now, I gotta survive.
Well, and it just gets passed down to the consumer. So, like, think about Starbucks.
Consumers are in trouble because that's just going to increase.
Let's look at Starbucks. Starbucks, you have a lot of employees. You've got a lot of people that are making money. Starbucks they sell coffee. They do a really good job of selling coffee and different kinds of coffees that are out there. But if you've noticed in the last couple of years that Starbucks coffee has gone up probably about 20% in price just for a regular cup of coffee, and everything across the board's gone up about 20 to 25%. Inflation's only 2%. So why is coffee, the price of coffee hasn't gone up that high? It's the payroll. They got to pay their employees. They got to pay for the people. They got to pay.
But it's also the taxation, all the extra stuff, the MSP payments, the CPP payments, and it's now the PPE that they have to now supply for all their staff and everything else.
That is all going to get passed down to the end consumer at the end of the day, and that drives our cost of living way high.
I can tell you, I've been meeting with members, and again, we're lobbying on this, and they're talking about the fact that whether or not they're going to hire that extra person.
Yeah.
Initially, when it came out, it was on $0 of payroll. We lobbied as an organization and got it up to $500,000. Well, we're lobbying to get it up to $2 million. So, there is conversations around infrastructure spending. You start hiring a few trades guys, and all of a sudden your payroll gets big pretty quick.
I have a client that is an engineering firm, and they have 4 engineers, 4 people that work for this company, and engineers make a substantial amount of money, and they've had to restructure how they do everything because it's an extra $5,000 or $6,000 out of their bottom line every year. Mm-hmm. When you're not running really high margins and your profit margins aren't that high, this is devastating for them to have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Margin squeeze has happened.
Yeah.
Things
And
are
that just gets,
costing more money.
again, it just gets passed down to the end user at the end of the day.
Well, but you know something, it doesn't, because you got to remember, I have a member in HVAC, and it came right out of their bottom line, because
Yep.
again, as you know, you're bidding on jobs and the likes, and this margin squeeze is what's happening. So what
Margin
happens when you get rid of the profits for a lot of business owners? Why would you invest your money in your business when you're not walking away with anything? You know, so
Yeah.
quite honestly, I do not think that employees really have a clear understanding of, hey, I get an extra $80 or $100, you know, because I don't have to pay this, what it really means to their future. People are not getting raises because businesses can't afford it. Businesses are not getting contracts because they can't afford to work on no margin. You know, so this is just a downward spiral.
Yeah, it's not a good situation. It really isn't. Unless you have unlimited amounts of money to fund yourself, which, you know, obviously is not a thing. We're gonna pivot. I love this part. Matt and I have been talking about pivoting businesses, pivoting to the new reality. I hate the term new normal, because there's nothing normal about this pandemic. But you're gonna have to pivot your business into a different direction. Matt, you've had a couple of clients that have pivoted successfully, and then you've had some clients that have pivoted unsuccessfully.
Yeah,
what are some of the things that they've done?
the people that pivoted without massive capital expenditure, they're doing great. Just to be honest, I'm just going to be purely honest with you. People that said, hey, this is what I can do. What can I do without spending a bucket load of money? One did manufacturing, moved over to tooling. He's doing tooling now. Quick turnover. He had to spend less than $10,000 in capital. Fantastic pivot, right? Not capital intensive. Other people, massive capital intensive, spent a lot of money on a pivot, and by the time they were half done, they realized they didn't have enough money to continue. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're going to pivot, look what you can do within a short period of time with not a huge amount of money. And those are the people that are surviving, that are saying, listen, okay, I had a catering business. I'm just going to throw one out there. I don't know. I used to do weddings. I'm not doing weddings anymore. You know what? Fresh is doing really good, and they're delivering food. Why don't I offer to do that on a local level? I'll do a $8 meal. Bang, all of a sudden you've got 200 orders, and now you're surviving, right? You've got all the equipment. You've already got that's a good pivot. Bad pivot, I'm going to make myself a restaurant and spend $400,000.
Yeah. Restaurants are not a great industry to be in right now. Darcy, you were saying that CFIB has some help on some webinars and stuff like that. Why don't you plug some of the things you guys are doing here?
So access to, how do I transition to online selling? You know, what does it look like as far as getting a website set up? You know, what does it look like as far as accepting payments? You know, how can I do something different? I mean, to Matt's point, it's called HMR. Grocery stores have pivoted to HMR because people aren't cooking like they used to. It's home meal assembly. Well, there's lots of restaurants that could be incredibly good at that.
Yeah.
You know, so what does that look like? So it's getting these ideas, and you know, you may not get a definitive answer, but it's a thought starter. And that thought starter can lead on to other things, and consequently, you may be able to do something, to Matt's point, where, you know what, this is in my wheelhouse and it doesn't cost me a lot of money, but it takes a shift in the way that I'm doing things in process in order to be successful.
And I mean, we've pivoted into doing from doing like seminars and stuff into doing webinars now, and then using technology to try and help. And the success that I've had with doing these webinars and getting the information out there has been really good.
The other thing I always say to people too is on pivots like this, a lot of small businesses are having to do it with less people, like we were talking about earlier. And that's just part of it, and using the platforms that are given to you. That's what I keep on saying to people is there a program you can do that could help you out in certain areas, like Calendly or something like that? You know, I lost my receptionist, what I did, and we still haven't fully pivoted over to some of the things that we need to do. But now we're starting to do that because, you know, when we're in the height of the pandemic, we're getting literally probably 100 phone calls a day, and I'm not exaggerating. Our firm is doing 100 phone calls a day. Matthew, Justin Trudeau just announced a new program today, you know. And he announced a new program today. And
I think Justin's the only one that knew it.
Yeah, but you have to understand that, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time. The other thing I would say to people too is be a little bit of patient with other people.
Yeah.
You know, I know we're in an instant gratification society, and I mean, what's happening in the United States sure shows that. It's like, I want it right now. But that's not the way it is for some people. But this is going to be really important for us for pivoting business. I pivoted my business. I'm going to tell you right now, the tax services that rely on cash back in 2021 are changing their business model.
So that would
Because
be H&E
cash back
Block
is
and
not going to
Liberty
be, I
Tax.
can't mention names, the money is not going to be there. All those people are going to owe money this year, not get money back. And we all know it. I mean, I personally, I'll do T1s for my corporate clients. I take on some referrals, but I'm not looking forward to it next year because everybody's going to be like, I owe money. What's going on? You did it wrong. I'm taking it somewhere else. I know that's what's going to happen. So I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't make money on T1s.
Yeah.
No accounting firm makes money on T1s that I know of. I'll just so you know. It's in all honesty, we don't make money at it.
Yeah, no, it's, and they're making it more and more onerous and complicated that people don't understand.
Yeah.
The tax
One of the
system.
things, sorry, Lyle, one of the things that I'd like to pass on that I heard from a member, which I thought was a really great idea, is he was part of an association that sold a high-end product. He talked to all of the other dealers in the area and changed the business hours, and they agreed to do it all in the province. It made a significant difference for them during COVID, and they didn't lose any sales, but their costs went down.
That's good.
So consequently, I think that this idea that you need to be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. doesn't make a lot of sense.
Nope.
People are in the process of adjusting their habits now.
Yep.
This organization is closed Sunday, Monday, because Monday was a slow sales day. Not only does it allow them to recruit people because people have 2 days off, but they're also in a better spot because they're not having to pay additional people and continue to try and look for people to sell their products.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, it's something that I think that sometimes gets overlooked, that I can make a change this simple without having to invest anything and just making the quality of life better as well as improving my business.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's talk about the Americans. We still don't know who the new president is going to be. I think it's going to be Biden, judging by what's kind of coming down the pike here. But what does it mean for Canada? What do you guys think? Matt?
Biden win means he'll undo. So for Canadian taxpayers who are American citizens who own companies, it's going to be great because he's going to be getting rid of the retained earnings tax. A lot of people do not understand why. So everybody says the Republicans are for big business. Big business gave money to Biden. They gave all their money to Biden. I'll tell you why. Under Trump, they repatriated trillions of dollars, $500 billion by Apple alone, out of tax havens. George Soros, that cost him a lot of money. Just so you know, that's why he hated Trump. Like, there's a reason why the massively wealthy hate Trump. So when Biden sits there and says he's going to tax the rich got him in power. Good luck with that. Yep. What they're going to, the problem you have, and I'm telling you right now, is if he repeals all the stuff that Trump did, $4 trillion will exit the banking system in the United States of America back down to the tax havens, and that will cause a banking nightmare. That is my prediction.
And I don't doubt that, but I also know that Biden's not going to be, he's going to be very protectionist for the Americans.
I agree too. A lot of people think, we're going to go back to the way it was. No, I don't think that at all. I think what's going to happen is they're going to get more socialist. Socialism doesn't mean that they're not going to be protectionist. I think the U.S. is in for some hurt no matter who wins, in my personal feeling.
Yeah.
They're just in for hurt, but it's just the tax policy. I know, and it's funny because people don't talk about this tax policy, but I know the tax policy because I do it for my clients. The 10% retained earnings tax was a hit for people. And I think Biden's going to repeal certain parts of it. I think they're going to keep big tech happy. And that's pretty obvious to me by how much money he got.
Well, but here's the funny thing, Matt. And if you look at share prices for the last 4 years of Alphabet, Facebook, the FANG stocks, Facebook, Alphabet, Netflix, and Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, the FANG stocks, the average return on those stock prices in the last 4 years was on average 150% return.
Yep.
Wow.
These wealthy trillionaires that are doing that are in the technology thing, they've made a boatload of money under Trump.
Yep. But they all spent all their money getting him out.
Yeah, and that's what it blows my mind. It's like, okay, well, again, at what point
But he
so
was
now you're going
bringing
to
down.
see,
I know George Soros made a lot of sense because George Soros had all his money offshore and he was being taxed on it
yeah,
because that's, the retained earnings tax. When the retained earnings tax came out, and that was 2 years ago, a lot of big business turned on it because it was taxing them quite heavily because they were, unfortunately, what a lot of people don't want to realize in the States is a lot of really wealthy Americans have stuff offshore. Just the
yeah,
way it is.
and that's kind of the way it's going to keep going.
I mean, Canada closed that loophole a while ago. I mean,
Yeah,
it
they're
is
going after
onerous
that.
to
Yeah,
get
they were
money
going
out of
after that pretty
Switzerland.
aggressively.
Yeah, getting getting money out of Switzerland, getting money in Cayman Island, getting money out of any of those areas, it is tough. It is really tough.
Yep.
It's taxed at 38%. It's heavily taxed. Canada closed that loophole. The Panama Papers came out. Unfortunately, it looks like there's still some weird accounting going on with some of the bigger organizations out there that they're going to find this trusting. There was all the trust rule changes. That's why that was brought about, because there's all these trusts that are getting income, but there's no requirement to report. Well, that's now going to change. They're going to catch a lot of people doing that. But the U.S. fallout, that's the main one for me. Is I think if you're a Canadian, you might be really happy to see the 10% retained earnings tax gone.
Yeah, I don't think, like some people are saying, there's going to be civil war. There's going to be all these things. No, there's not going to be a civil war. I mean, again, don't quote me on that, but people are going to just they're going to go back to work. They're going to do their jobs. They just want to go home and Netflix and chill, right? Like, Darcy, what did the CFIB have anything to say on the U.S. election, or if anything at all?
Well, I can't speak for CFIB, but I think that uncertainty is never a good thing. I think it just creates challenges as people are trying to predict what to do. So,
yeah.
I think when there's some certainty, we'll see, the country transition.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this uncertainty is solved sooner rather than later. But with lawsuits and all of that kind of stuff, it just keeps it going.
Well, the one thing that we do know is that it's going to be an interesting few weeks until they figure out what's going on. But
no matter who wins, it's going to be a really interesting 4 years.
Yeah.
If it's Trump, you're going to have 4 years of Trump. I mean,
well,
as far as policy goes, I agree more with Trump. As far as personality goes, I could do a little less with Trump.
Yeah.
But Biden's not going to last 4 years. I mean, honestly, guys, I feel sorry for the guy. He's clearly
we could have a whole webinar on this. And here's the other thing that nobody's talking about, because Canadians don't really understand American politics. The Republicans won the Senate. So,
by the way, if they had lost the Senate, all bets were off. This was going to be
they won the Senate. So what this is saying that it's not a open thing for Biden to do what he wants. The Senate is going to quash everything that they try and do. So they can't pack the courts. They can't filibuster anymore. They can't do a lot of the things that they were saying they were going to do in the mandate of the Biden mandate that they were going to do. So it's a lot of things are going to be kind of just in a standstill. The Green New Deal is going to be gone. For Canada, the big thing that we're going to see here is that if Biden gets in and he starts going after the fossil fuels industry in the States, which he said is going to start phasing it out. Famously, our prime minister said the same thing. That's not good news for anybody. It's in the fossil fuels business anywhere in North America. It could be good for Canada that we might be able to produce more and get it down there, but they're going to try and kill the Keystone pipeline as well, which I don't think is a good thing for Canada. We're running short on time here, guys, so let's crash through these. The economic recovery, I've harped on this one. Matt and I have harped on this one. This is the amount of money that the Bank of Canada has printed in the last couple of months as compared to the rest of the world in percentages. This does not bode well for the Canadian dollar. It doesn't bode well for a lot of things. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Matt and Darcy, but I don't see a lot of good coming from this.
Well, this is why we went from a high rating. We talked about this last time. I mean, the fallout from this is scary. Could be $1 worth so little. I mean, maybe that's what they want. I mean, this is the thing. Maybe our dollar goes down to 50 cents on the US dollar or something like that, and then that spurs trade. Who knows? But having a low dollar across the world, I don't know if it's just going to make life expensive here.
Yeah. Darcy, I don't know what you guys have much to say about that. But
Yeah, I really don't. I really
yeah.
don't.
The future of business in Canada. So the one thing that we do know that what we have today is not going to be what we have tomorrow. Things are going to be different. They're going to be a lot different. We're going to have increased tax burden on different classes and different organizations and different. Unfortunately, I think that the burden is going to shift to tax, or the tax burden is going to shift to the business owners. So it means even more that as a business owner, you need to be prepared. You need to have the right people on your side to help you go through a lot of these things. We talked about
Also, get a voice. Like join CFIB. They're your lobby. Just get a voice. They've got tons of value. It's not even. It's dirt cheap.
well, and that's actually a wonderful segue, Matt. We're going to pivot over to Darcy.
Sorry, Darcy. I'll throw it out there for you. And I didn't tell you I was going to do that, but what is it? $300 and some odd a year? What is it?
Yeah, it depends upon your employees. We have a $30 fee per month plus $3 per employee, which includes the business owners. So, in light of what we do, I think that it's incredible value for when you'll hear about some of the things. So, really, CFIB, everything we do is to increase your chances of success. Can you go to the next one, please?
You betcha.
So we're the largest group, nonprofit group, and we support 110,000 independent businesses across all of the major sectors in the economy. I can tell you myself, Lyle is a member with us in financial services. I deal with farmers as well, restaurants, manufacturers, a lot of people in other industries. When you take a look at the characteristics of our organization, 15% of people are self-employed, but 56% of our members have less than 9 employees. And this is really important because when you talk about having a voice, the 3 things that we just talked about, the wage subsidy change, the rent subsidy change, and the extension of the wage subsidy until June of last year was done specifically because of the CFIB lobbying. The reality is that we survey our members on a weekly basis. That information is consolidated on the weekend. We meet with the government on Monday. We release it to the media on Tuesday. The reality from those folks is we are the best data set that they have. Their next best data set is their StatsCan data set, which is 3 months old. But consequently, think about it. You have 9 employees or less. You are changing government programs because of your influence, because you're answering a survey. CFIB is the thin edge of the wedge. If you want your voice heard, you have an outsized voice, and quite honestly, you punch above your weight, and you can get things to move. Because the example that I use with a lot of folks is initially the wage subsidy was 10%. We released feedback from our members to the media. A reporter asked Bill Morneau. I hear in European countries it's as high as 75%. CFIB has recommended you do the same thing here. He was silent for 21 seconds. They went on to the next question. 9 days later, Prime Minister Trudeau said that we're moving it to 75% because we heard feedback from Canadian independent business. So when you start looking at those kind of things, if you want your voice heard, we're a good organization to help you with that. Next one. So we really do 3 things. So we advocate on behalf of independent business. We have business experts or business resource department. So what that looks like is having a consultant in your corner. We aren't accountants and we aren't lawyers, but consequently, we will tell you if we believe that you need legal advice. But a lot of people are using us as their HR department dealing with COVID. So a lot of the information that we talked about earlier, constructive dismissal, we can help you with that. If you're employing family members, do you have an EI ruling to make sure that if you have a daughter that's pregnant and she wants to take mat leave, that she's entitled to take mat leave. If you don't have an EI ruling, that's at risk. How do you deal with an audit? We can help you get the information so you can work with Matt on that. We have templates on hiring. We have templates on firing. We have templates to make sure that you're compliant with WorkSafe BC. In the new world, there's a ton of information that they require that they can show up unannounced and say, hey, I want to see your anti-bullying and harassment policy. Oh, by the way, where's your poster? And if you don't have it, it could be a $2,500 fine. Where's your help?
That one actually, I've made that I didn't know that until I was talking to somebody at CFIB about that, and I'm like, I for every small business I go to, I'm like, you need an anti-bullying, Well, he's like, it's three guys here. I'm like, it doesn't matter if WorkSafe comes in and asks you for that, it needs to be posted somewhere that's visible for everybody to see. So have it in your lunchroom.
Exactly. So one of the biggest things that I'm hearing from entrepreneurs and independent business people is time. They don't have time. You want to create time so you're not looking on the internet for these documents? Become a member. We can help you create time. Let us do the heavy lifting that allows you to spend that time with your family, with your friends, or growing your business. This is an opportunity to create time. And quite honestly, it's part of the membership. You're not on the clock. You can call us as much as you want. We'll provide you access to the templates and documents. And as we talked about earlier, we have webinars that deal not only with the changes to the government programs, but help you pivot your business.
And full disclosure here, everybody that's listening to me, is that I get a lot of my information from the CFIB webinars that I listen to. And as a business owner, we're busy doing our thing, but I can have it on in the background, which I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to us right now or watching us are just listening to us in the background and still working and still doing this. So, you know, it's a good way of dealing with having some information coming in and just not listening to the white noise.
Yeah.
This is where a CFIB really came up to play and helped out, is with COVID-19 and coming down and some of the regulations.
Yeah. So we have been in the media over 50,000 times fighting for independent business to get the support that you need. So we had talked about some of these programs, but these are the three that were recently changed. And we talked about the surveys and what they did. This is our independent members providing their feedback and allowing us to go fight. So they're supplying us with the ammunition that we need to go make sure the government understands what they need. So, the wage subsidy has been extended till 2021. There's some other details in there. But again, it's the members that were driving this. Can you go to the next page, Lyle?
You got it.
Talk about the CEBA loan. We had been dealing with this since the inception. I mean, there were so many changes that went on. Initially, you needed 50,000 in payroll. You could only have up to $1 million. We got to change it down to 20,000 up to 1.5 million. You couldn't use contractors. You couldn't, use dividends to pay yourself. You had to have a business bank account. This has been an ongoing fight for us. And because of all of those businesses that were forced to close, they still had expenses coming in with no revenue.
Yep.
Again, how do you deal with a lot of these things if you don't have somebody fighting for you? And the reality is that we were able to get it up to 60,000 with 20 being forgivable. But as always, the biggest challenge is it never happens fast enough for us because people are hurting.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, we want this to move faster, but the government is listening to us. So it means the government is listening to our members, which is really important.
And on that note is because like the shutdowns that we had were government forced. It wasn't like we shut down because we had to. We didn't shut down because we wanted to. It's not because we wanted a 2-month vacation as being business owners. It's because we had to because of the pandemic, and they actually. So these things are as a result of government mandated shutdowns. It's not because we did it out of the goodness of our heart. And now this is benevolent charity coming out of the government. So a lot of people are like, they're giving all these business owners all this money. Well, we had to shut down our businesses, close our doors. Like, would you be able to work for 2 months without getting paid?
Well, and I think that the reality is people don't recognize you need to qualify.
Yeah.
This stuff isn't going out the door just because. If you don't qualify, you're not getting money. And Matt brought that up earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And then the rent subsidy, you guys have quite a bit to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. This was Laura Jones continuing to fight. She's been fighting, quite honestly, since the beginning to make sure that business owners are looked after. And the transition to the tenants we see as a massive win. And the next piece to fight on is to make sure that we do everything we can to make it retroactive. We are really concerned about those folks that just have these massive rent bills that are coming due, and too many sleepless nights, and people really concerned about their family and their futures, which we want to try and help alleviate, because that's why we're here. Our motto is we never give up and we never go away. And quite honestly, we're pretty good as a nonpartisan organization in holding all levels of the government accountable. And we're going to continue to push on the federal government as well as the provincial government.
And so this emergency rent subsidy that we're talking about here, that we're still waiting for a lot of details from that. So kind of what we can tell everybody is when we have some more answers, we'll do another information session.
Sure.
Or you can join the Federation of Independent Business and join in on some of their webinars as well.
On our website, cfib.ca, we update information as soon as we get it. So you can you're more than welcome to go have a look. You don't need to be a member in order to have this, because quite honestly, we do want memberships. It's what allows us to have a much larger voice and basically influence government. But the reality is we want every independent business to thrive in the country, because you are part of our communities and you do hire people
Yeah.
and make it a better place for all of us to live.
And the government needs to recognize on all levels that the majority, like a big, like, well, I don't know what the percentage is, but a huge percentage of our economic prosperity in this country is because of small business.
Absolutely.
It's not because of large corporations. It's not because of government employees. It's because of small business. It's mom and pop shops. It's small restaurants, small retail stores. They punch way above their weight class as far as economic prosperity in this country, and it's necessary for a good thing. And so, part of the thing is being loyal to business owners as part of my practice is let's keep going, let's pivot, let's see where we can go with this. And there's going to be opportunities coming that are going to make themselves apparent in the new reality, not the new normal, the new reality of how things are going to go.
Well, you bring up a really good point, Lyle, is we have a program called Small Business Every Day in order to make people aware, go support those business owners that you were supporting prior to COVID. They need your help now. These are the folks that, you have relationships with. They remember your name. You want to go see them.
Yeah.
So, we're continuing to advocate for independent business. And if you're interested, we'll get a photo of you and we'll post it to our website, just
Cool.
to raise that awareness.
Wonderful.
So what's next? We've been around for 50 years next year, and we started because we started fighting the small business tax rate. So as we've been talking about, the concern is that, with the budgets where they are and the deficit going where it is, how is the government going to recover its money? We just recently were successful in holding the Liberals to the 9% small business tax rate in 2015 that they committed to in order to form the government. 2017, they decided to stall that at 10.5%. So we helped form and lead a group of over 70 business coalitions that hire or employ 1 million Canadians to fight that, and we did make that win. Last year, we also were effective in lobbying the provincial government to remove PST from your hydro bill. The intention is to have more business inputs on that list where you're not paying PST. We continue to have an ongoing struggle with WorkSafe. The last number that I heard was they were over funded by $7 billion. The numbers that I have in my information is it was at 6.4 at that time, or 153% of their liabilities. So we're looking for a refund to business owners, which on average for our members is $1,263. We're looking for a reduction in rate, and importantly, we are looking for a mechanism to be put in place where the government doesn't get to choose on whether or not they give the money back. If funding hits a specific threshold, it automatically triggers a refund and a reduction, as well as getting a voice on that board to make sure that the voice of independent business is heard when policies and premiums are being set.
And then this WorkSafe controls everything as far as like you step into a workplace, they have control on that environment, and for good reason too, because we need to have safe working environments and ensure that everybody's safe when they go to work. But are they operating like an insurance company where they have to have a certain amount of reserves as far as liabilities, or is it just they're just hanging onto it for fun?
That's a good question, because we're looking for more transparency about that as well. How is it being managed?
How their bonuses work. How many people did you screw over?
Well, but some of you hear stories about people that are legitimately hurt, not getting the support that they need, and then you hear about the increase in their premium.
Yeah.
So, if we had a more transparent situation with this agency, would we have these struggles? I mean, when things are black and white, people can either say, yes, I qualify, or no, I don't. And then decisions can be made, because quite honestly, these people are accountable to the people that are paying the premiums. And that's citizens here in BC. So we talked a little bit earlier, we're continuing to fight for an increase in the health care tax. And we continue to provide recommendations to all levels of government regarding budget. And we continue to lobby to reduce interchange fees and credit card fees. So the changes that we saw this summer with Visa and MasterCard, we continue to push them because they're still way too expensive here in Canada.
They compared to the rest of the world, our transit fees and our commerce fees are quite high.
Yeah, they are. They are. We've been fighting for this for 20 years. Quite honestly, one of our partners in our savings program is MasterCard. Initially, they threatened to sue us out of existence. So
Well, there you
we
go.
got 110,000 people don't have the resources what the MasterCard did, but we're still fighting, and now they're a partner of ours.
Well, there you go. And again, people can see it, right? So,
Yeah.
we are running. Let's see, what time are we at here? Yeah, we're running way over time. Thank you so much, guys. If you have any questions, please, if you have a question, I know that there's probably there, but I'm going to post this on YouTube shortly. So it'll be up there for people that didn't attend or that need the information. Guys, thank you so much for your help and your feedback. And Darcy, thank you for coming on. I hope to see you again soon. If you're willing to come on for these again.
Absolutely.
I got you on camera now. You're obligated now. That's how I got Matt.
I think the bigger thing that I want people to realize is you're not on your own.
Yeah.
You don't have to be. So quite honestly, we are more than willing to sit down and have a conversation, but make sure that you're aware of what's available to you, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you're the only one going through this. And a lot of you folks, you're not. I see lots of people on a daily basis, and you know what? Lots of folks are struggling. So we're here to help if you want it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is a lot of the comments and a lot of the calls that I get are out of fear. What's happening? What am I going to do with this? How am I going to get through this? What am I going to do? And a lot of the resources that I use are from the CFIB. So again, I'm a proud member of the Federation of Independent Business. I think Matt, you're going to be, or you were at one point.
We are.
But both Matt and I are very big believers in the CFIB. And Darcy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Matt, thank you so much
for joining us and the invite, Lyle. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm going to end the meeting now, and we'll just go from there. Everybody have a wonderful day and stay safe out there. And take care.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.